Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, audiophiles and music lovers. Today we're going to review the Focal Bathys headphones. I hope you enjoy it. Let's do a preview of what I'm going to cover today, because the Focal Bathys headphones are something special in my view, and I might as well deliver that up front. I found these headphones to deliver excellent sound quality, and that's for a Bluetooth headphone, which quite surprised me because, as you may know, I'm pretty much the guy who's panned Bluetooth for its low data rate and lack of high resolution. But as Bluetooth headphones, these sound quite good. But not only that, Focal has seen fit to include some features here that allow you to get around the Bluetooth limitation, and I'll describe that in more detail. But I think you'll want to stay tuned, because I found these to be the best under $1,000 wireless headphones that I've listened to so far. All right, let's talk first about the features of the Focal Bathys headphones. Might as well let you see them here because they're easy to hold up. As you can see, they're nicely designed, I think. Headphones, they are closed back. You can't really tell that because of all these perforations, but that is a solid membrane, not an opening. So they're closed back headphones. They are wireless using Bluetooth, but they can also be run in wired mode, and I want to comment on that because I think it's important. The wireless mode using Bluetooth has the natural limitation. This isn't really something that's specific to this headphone. It has the natural limitation that the data rate of Bluetooth is inherently limited to approximately 1/5 of the data rate you can get on a regular CD, and even less than that, 1/10 or less of what you can get with high-res streams or high-res recordings that you have on your laptop or other device. So the data rate means that you get inherently somewhat more compressed or congested sound on most occasions. Again, I want to emphasize that's not a function of these particular headphones, which allow, in theory, some of the higher Bluetooth data rates, which go up to maybe 1/3 or even 1/2 of CD data rates. But you're still running at a limited data rate that is defined by the Bluetooth standard. What I'm going to tell you in a minute is that for Bluetooth headphones, these sound surprisingly good. I don't know what magic was wrought by the French designers, but they did something kind of magical here, and that's nice to know. But what's also interesting is they understood the data rate limitation, and so they gave you two ways to get around that. You can run these in wired mode, connected directly into a device, a DAP or a phone, and use the amplifier and the D to A converter in that device, and that's one way to get around the Bluetooth data limitation. You then inherit the whatever data limitations you do or don't have in that device, but that's a nice feature. And in addition, you can just plug your phone directly into the headphones using USB, and then you use the amplifier and the D to A converter that's in the headphones, and that D to A converter can decode high-res data streams. So you aren't inherently limited by Bluetooth. On the other hand, you get the freedom of Bluetooth, which is wireless operation, and you can just toss these into a backpack and go. So I thought that was a pretty nifty design feature here. They're medium weight. They seem to be really nicely made, but they're medium weight, which in my parlance is 12 ounces, plus or minus a little bit. and they have an app, which is another benefit of Bluetooth. They have a Focal Name app, which allows you to do custom EQ settings, so you can lower or raise certain frequencies. What I particularly liked about that application was that the frequencies seemed to be well chosen given the response curve of these particular headphones and what is musically meaningful. So I thought the EQ was pretty useful. I have not found that to be the case with many EQ systems on headphones. So again, another win for Focal. In addition, the app has a module under license from an entity called Mimi. And the idea of Mimi is to measure first and then correct for age-related hearing loss. And age-related hearing loss typically begins in your 30s. So this is something that applies to a large number of people. They measure essentially the frequency response of your ear and then apply a corrective curve to the response that they measure. They don't try to compensate, and I think this is another moment of Focal genius. They don't try to compensate completely for the roll-off that you have at high frequencies in either your left or your right or both ears. They do, seems like a midway compensation to the amount of roll-off that you have, and that tends to get you back a little closer to reality without sounding unnatural. So the Mimi module I found to work quite well. It takes 10 minutes to do the test, but it's very helpful, I think, that they've measured the actual response of your ears individually. All right. Like many headphones in this category, they have active noise cancellation. I did not use that for my listening tests. I wanted to see the best that these could do, but I did confirm that the noise cancellation seems to work reasonably well. The microphone that's included allows them to be used on phone calls or for Zoom meetings or other applications where you might need to have a microphone built in. And very nicely, I find this to be valuable when you're using headphones as part of a meeting type scenario. You can activate side tone, which means you can hear your own voice in a clearer way rather than it being sort of, muffled and coming through the sides of the headphones like this. And then finally, 30 hours of battery life. At least that's the claim number. I'm sure it matters, whether you just leave them sitting on all the time or how much power you're using or those kinds of things. But anyway, plenty of battery life, it would seem to me, if you're a regular user. All right, so that's the feature set of these headphones. It's pretty rich, it's pretty diverse, and gives you a lot of flexibility. I'll be back in a minute to talk about sound quality. Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. As you may know, I'm Tom Martin, Chief Content Officer of The Absolute Sound. We have a new product. It's on the Substack platform, and we're going to do some interesting things with Substack. First of which is reader questions and answers. Each Monday, readers will submit questions. We'll pick the most interesting ones and we'll answer the questions on Friday. We'll also have early access to articles and special blogs that don't appear anywhere else. We hope you'll join us. It's only a cost of a cup of coffee per month. Just check on the screen or in the show notes below. Thanks, and now back to the show. Okay, let's talk about what we're really here for, which is to go over sound quality, because there are lots of headphones at much lower price points that can do voice for meetings or some particularly narrow application. But I want to emphasize in these comments, there are not a lot of headphones that manage to pull off most of the basic checklist items that you would have on sound quality for a headphone for a critical musical listening situation. These pass almost all of those tests, and I was quite surprised for $6.99 how well they did when you're listening to all sorts of music from classical to hip hop and everything in between. Okay, let's start with basic frequency descriptors, because that's a lot of what people will notice with headphones, and sure, that's actually really important. Bass. The bass on these is beautifully balanced. It's punchy, it's got good depth, it's got proper weight. In a headphone, you always want to ask yourself, do I want or need a little bit more bass than would be perfectly neutral, because I lack the feeling of air moving in the room that you get with bands or orchestras that are playing live. So, I'm trying to pass a little bit of judgment here on what psychoacoustically is needed to pull off a convincing sense of real bass. But I thought the weight was very nicely judged. And the amazing thing is, with all of that I just said, you also get good bass detail. And that suggests to me that what we have here is a headphone that's got very linear bass response, which is not something you can say about many headphones. There I said it, $6.99, and I think the bass on these is excellent. Your taste may vary. That's certainly possible, but the low frequency range on the Focal Bathys is superb in my view. I did compare them to my Hi-Fi Man Susvaras, and I would say the Susvara is, on each of the variables I just talked about, maybe slightly better, with the one possible exception that I think the Bathys is competitive in terms of bass detail, and that's something I care quite a bit about. So, anyway, another win if you ask me. All right. The next thing, and you don't always get this, is you get very good bass with the Focals, and it's very well proportioned with the mid-range. A lot of times, designers who are going after bass that's punchy or deep or weighty get a little bit out of their minds, and they bring the bass level up relative to the mid-range, or they make the mid-range depressed relative to the bass. It's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. In any event, you don't get the sense of clarity, instrumental tonality, beautiful vocals that you do with these headphones, because the singer or a piano or a lot of instruments, or the overtones of instruments, get slightly lost in the shuffle, and the headphone sounds a little bit muffled, or sometimes slightly dark, or just like the key performers are recessed on the stage. But in the case of the Focal Bathys, we're talking about very linear bass to mid-range transition. And then within the mid-range is quite smooth, so you don't have the sense that instruments sound a little bit off or strange, that voices sound somehow harsh or muffled, or some combination of things, which when you get ups and downs in frequency response, or when you have distortions in the drivers, you can easily get some of those side effects where the mid-range might be roughly at the right level, but each of the frequency ranges within the mid-range are up, down, or sideways. So I thought that bass to mid-range balance was very nice. I would say the transition into the lower treble, there's definitely a little bit of a recess in the lower treble. That's depending on the music and the type of music and the mastering and the production team and what the recording folks were trying to accomplish. That's sometimes an asset, sometimes a deficit. This is a small dip in my listening, but it definitely softens things up very slightly. And then we transition back to mid and upper treble that are, again, nicely balanced and quite smooth. Now, you may remember that I mentioned that there's an equalizer in the app, and conveniently enough, about where I hear this dip, which is somewhere in the 3 to 5K range, they've placed an equalizer frequency, and you can creep the equalizer up a couple dB, 1, 2, 3, suit yourself, if you find that recess in the lower treble is problematic. So really nicely constructed engineering here is what I'm trying to get at, that allows you to achieve a quite balanced sound. I would say because of that balanced sound and because so many frequency ranges are treated quite well, this is a pretty dynamic headphone. On some stuff like rim shots, I think you will find that the lower treble, the small depression in the lower treble, again, it just barely softens things up. So you, again, may want to correct that. I didn't find that to be a particularly problematic thing, but some people may be used to a more alive or active sound in that area that may go on the other side of neutral. And if you want that, these either aren't the headphones for you or you need to correct for it. But basically, I found the top to bottom balance to be outstanding. This is a hard thing to achieve. It's hard to not have ranges that have dips and peaks and all sorts of stuff like that. And for the most part, that's not what you hear here. It sounds like really good reproduced music. I personally don't think headphones ever completely sound like the real thing, because you don't have the spaciousness and imaging qualities with headphones, at least without special circuitry, that you can get if you listen to the best in-room hi-fi. But other than that, Focal has done a really nice job here with sound quality. Now, let me comment on the built-in amp DAC, because I found that worked very nicely with high-resolution streams. I use Qobuz and have a lot of recordings that are 24-bit and many that are 96K or 192K, or I was listening to one last night that was 350 something. I can't do the math that fast. So the high-res streams, especially on Qobuz, are outstanding. They make a difference, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that you can hear that difference, especially using the built-in amplifier and DAC from the Focal Bathys headphones. Another thing that's nice about that is it allows you to run the headphones streamed off of your phone without really worrying about whether the DAC or the amplifier in the phone is up to the task. So I thought the built-in wired scenario was pretty nice. And again, if you're sitting at a desk or whatever you're doing, a wire going from a pants pocket up to your headphones isn't really a big problem if you don't mind being the nerd in the room. And, you know, I'll let you call that one. The other thing I will say is that I was surprised how the equalizer didn't seem to do any deleterious things to the sound. I don't know how the circuit is designed, so maybe they've done a very careful job of building this in, but at the small amounts of adjustment, 1, 2, 3 dB that I was trying to do, there just didn't seem to be any drawback to using that. So there you have it. I just want to summarize. Outstanding quality across most of the parameters that you would want to understand for a headphone, and at $699, and with all these features, but at $699, if this were just a straight wired headphone, I think you would be very pleased with the results. Okay, let's summarize the Focal Bathys headphones. I think, as you can tell, I thought these were very nice headphones and a very good value for the money. Let me summarize that with a couple of points just to make sure we don't get lost in all the details. This is the best Bluetooth headphone I've heard for anything like this kind of money. I did a review a while back of the Sony 1000 XM5s, and this sounds better in practically every way than the Sony does. Of course, you know, it's round numbers, twice as much money, so it should be better. I think this headphone is easily competitive with headphones at nearly twice the money. So we're talking about some kind of a special achievement award here. And, you know, again, I suggest you shop at those higher price points if you can afford it, and listen to the alternatives that are there, because, you know, as with all things, there are differences, and those differences may matter to you. But this is worth shopping if you're shopping in $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,400 price range. I have to say, in part, I say that because you get a feature set along with the excellent sound quality that I think makes these usable in just about every scenario except sports. This is not a headphone for the gym. This is not a headphone for when you're running. It's not that kind of headphone. But other than that application, most of the office work, cafe work, you just want to be free to walk around the house and do whatever you do. Most of those applications this headphone fits with, and I think that means it works well with the way a lot of us live. And I will say, below the $1,000 price point, you almost never get this mix of qualities where the headphone is good, at least, at pretty much everything. You can get headphones, I've reviewed under $100 headphones that I would happily listen to and are nice, but they don't have all of the boxes checked off. They do one or two things very well, and that's probably how they squeeze them down to $100, $200, or $300. But if you kind of want it all, and a lot of people do, I think the Focal Bathys is the place to start looking. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I would ask you to click on the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That's the way when we publish new reviews, you get notified of them. Of course, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. The information for that is either on the screen or in the show notes. And finally, we've been publishing the magazine for over 25 years, and you know, it's the price of a couple cups of coffee, and I think it's worth it, and we'd love it if you would join us there. Thanks for watching.